So hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Ames's Corner. How are you all doing out there? So today I've got 10 automotive misconceptions, stuff I've heard over my career that people just don't seem to understand correctly, and I'm going to try to dispel some of those myths or maybe get to the bottom of why those myths are myths. So here we go. Number 10, 4x4 vehicles always need all 4 tires changed. Well, not necessarily. This comes down to what type of vehicle you have. What is the four-wheel drive system in your vehicle? Now, the problem is when a vehicle with all-wheel drive turns, the front wheels travel further than the rear wheels will travel, and something inside of the all-wheel drive system has to slip to let that happen. And if you have mismatched tires, that slip is going to be happening every time you drive every mile. Now, the slipping, a certain amount of slipping is manufactured in so you don't wind up the driveline. Driveline wind up is that torque from those different spinning wheels has to be dispersed somewhere, and all-wheel drive vehicles have the slipper clutches. Those slipper clutches will heat up, break down, and wear out over time, and if they're compensating for different size tires, that can happen really fast. Now, when you don't need to worry about this is when you have a driver selected 4x4 system, like the old school transfer cases and locking hubs. You don't have to worry about changing tires at the same time on those vehicles because the driver decides when the all-wheel drive system is engaged. So if you select when you can put it in four-wheel drive, then you can get away with 2 tires. If you have an all-wheel drive system that's always on, you can't shut it off, then you should replace all 4 tires, or you're going to wear whatever that slip joint is going to wear out faster. Number 9, higher octane fuel is always better. Only if your vehicle is made to use high octane fuel. Now, higher octane fuel is done to stop detonation and spark knock. Spark knock is created by high compression, high cylinder pressures, lean running conditions, and advanced timing. Now, you can make more power with more compression, with advanced timing. The trouble is you need the fuel that isn't going to ignite without spark, or before that piston has a chance to get to top dead center and start coming down. So unless your vehicle has high compression, has a lot of boost, has high cylinder pressures, higher octane fuel really isn't going to do anything for you. You know, your grocery getter with 8.9 to 1, 9 to 1 compression isn't going to see any advance. If when you're accelerating you're hearing spark knock, then higher octane fuel will help eliminate that spark knock. So unless your vehicle is tuned with high compression or you're experiencing pre-ignition, higher octane fuel will help. But if you're not experiencing those conditions already, then no benefit will be had to the higher octane fuel. Number 8, oil has to be changed at 3,000 miles. 3,000 miles is just what is said because it's an average. If you're driving a lot of highway and a lot of high speed, then you're going to be in top gear more. That mileage is going to rack up faster, and the oil isn't going to wear as fast in relation to the mileage because you're going fast and the engine isn't turning as fast. If you're just doing around town stop and go driving, then that engine can turn over more relative to the amount of mileage. So when you change your oil is really going to be up to how you use your vehicle. So if you're savvy enough, you can get an idea of what your oil looks like at 3,000 miles, check it every 1,000 miles, you'll kind of get an idea of how it wears out. So no, oil doesn't have to be changed at 3,000 miles. It has to be changed when it's worn out. Number 7, tires should always be set to sidewall pressure. No, tires are supposed to be set to the weight that is going to be put on those tires. And that is why every auto manufacturer has a label somewhere, usually in the driver's door jamb, that has the recommended pressures. Now, if you have a pickup truck, those pressures are for unloaded. If you have 1,000 pounds of weight in the back, you're going to need more pressure in those tires. Usually what's on the sidewall of a tire is the pressure to not exceed, or you could could cause damage to the tire. So you don't set the tire pressure to the sidewall, set the tire pressure to what the vehicle wants and how the vehicle's loaded. Also, you can set tire pressures to how you feel most comfortable. This time of year we have a lot of potholes, a lot of really rough roads. Well, if you run tires a little less inflated, a little softer, they're going to make up for some of that harshness in the road and take some of the abuse that would be transferred to the suspension. So tire pressure should be set to the vehicle specification, to the vehicle loading, and to the conditions you're driving in. Number 6, being easy on my car will make it last longer. Well, a lot of new vehicles have a lot of systems in them, variable valve timing, variable intake systems, a lot of exhaust stuff that likes to have a lot of heat go through it. If you're really easy on your vehicle, you can load it up with carbon and never really get it to the operating temperatures or to the RPMs that certain things are meant to be triggered, and those systems can seize up, those systems can gum up. Like, you ever heard of the term Italian tune-up, where sometimes you take a car, and back in my RX-7 and RX-8 days, this was true. Your car would come in running like crap. The customer is really easy on it, especially those rotary engines. They never really get on it because they think it's going to hurt the engine. We take the car and do nothing more but go out and get on it a little bit. You know, I don't mean doing donuts and brake stands and breaking the law. Just nice hard accelerations up to highway speed can do wonders for blowing carbon, for making these systems that might not be triggered by driving it easy. So, you know, get on your vehicle once in a while. If your vehicle's damaged, if the transmission's weak, well, by all means, don't get on it. So yeah, Italian tune-ups are good for a car now and again. Number 5, you can't go back to conventional oil if you run synthetic, or you can't go to synthetic if you run conventional. That is a complete myth. A lot of synthetic oils on the market are a conventional base oil with a synthetic package added into it. They call it an additive packet added into your oil. Oil pretty much comes from the ground, and really the base stocks all come from the ground. They just have an additive that makes it synthetic, where a majority of what's in it is synthetic, man-made. The trouble a lot of people have is they'll use regular oil in their vehicle, and for most of the vehicle's life, then at a point in time they want to do something good for their vehicle, they'll put synthetic in, and the next thing they know, they have oil leaks where they never had oil leaks before. Well, the thing with synthetic oil, and what makes it so great, is it flows easier, it flows better than conventional oils. That being said, if you have an oil leak, the oil's flowing out of an oil leak, synthetic oil is going to flow out easier than conventional oil. I'm actually going to post a link right here to one of the Eric the Car Guy videos where he goes into really good detail about synthetic oil, pretty much what I'm telling you now, but he does a really good job. And if you aren't subscribed to Eric the Car Guy, I totally recommend it. Number 4, my old classic car will burn the valves if I don't use lead substitute. Well, this kind of goes right up there with number 9, where higher octane is better. What lead that they used to add to the fuel back in the days, what that lead did was it was an anti-knock agent. It was no different than using higher octane fuel today. So if you would have a vehicle that was set up to run with that leaded fuel, and you run conventional fuel, low lead, high octane fuel, you might hear pre-ignition, or maybe you don't know to hear it. And that's what that lead was meant to do, was to stop pre-ignition. Now, there are other ways to stop pre-ignition if you're experiencing it in your older car. What causes pre-ignition is high cylinder pressures, high compression, advanced timing, and being too lean. You can do exactly the same thing that a lead substitute would do to your vehicle just by tuning it. You can just bring the timing back a few degrees. Use the highest octane fuel. If it's an older turbocharged car and you can adjust the boost, bring the boost down just a little bit till you don't hear pre-ignition. If you're not experiencing pre-ignition, then lead additive isn't going to do anything for you. And what I've always done with my old classic cars, instead of being a slave to the lead additive, is I'll just tune it to not ping, to not pre-ignite, with the fuels available at the pump. I had someone tell me that I'm going to ruin my Sonnet's motor by not using lead additive. Well, lead additive is what you do if you don't know how to eliminate detonation by tuning the engine. So that's a myth right there that I hear a lot of heat for when I say I don't use lead in my classic cars. It's because you can do what lead does other ways, mechanically. Number 3, higher end cars are always a better value and will last longer. Not in my experience. Now, what I'm saying is I'll go out and buy the latest Mercedes because it's the best car, it's a Mercedes, it's a BMW, it's the top of the line car, and it's going to last the longest because it costs the most. Well, the trouble is a lot of these high-end cars have a lot of high-end technology that goes wrong. A lot of these high-end cars are meant to be leased, not owned for a long period of time. You know, if you can afford the car, you can afford the new model every 2 years. So I see a lot of people that say they want to buy this Mercedes, buy this Audi, or buy this BMW because it's going to last longer, and it ends up nickel and diming the people to death. So you don't always get what you pay for in the automotive industry. Sometimes the cheaper cars, your Hyundais, your Hondas, your inexpensive Chevys, are kind of meant to be serviced. They're meant to be repaired and kept on the road longer than these high-end expensive cars. So if you think you're going to get a better car, a better used car by buying a Highline entry, you're going to find real quick that that is a fast way to drain your wallet. Number 2, my mechanic can give an accurate price on what's wrong with my car over the phone. How many times have I heard people ask me, you know, come in, tell me a little bit about what they think's wrong with their car, and then say, well, how much is that going to cost me? It's impossible to check. If I can't have the car in front of me to look at it, I can't tell you what it's going to cost to fix because I don't know exactly what's wrong. So no one can give you a perfect quote over the phone. We can give a generalization of what it sounds like you're telling us and what we've had experiences with. But if someone says they can always give you a quote over the phone and it's never going to be more than that, you can't look that in the mouth. That's not a true statement. Number 1. Cars are too advanced nowadays for me to work on at home, and that's false. Brakes are still work the same way. Suspension components are still the same as they've always been. Struts and shocks are still nuts and bolts. It's still righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Now, there are going to be some things that the shade tree mechanic isn't going to be able to work on these newer cars. A lot of that comes down to just needing the right piece of equipment to read what the computer says. But if you know what's wrong with your car, if you get it diagnosed someplace and you want to do the work yourself, sensors are held in with nuts and bolts. Suspension's held in with nuts and bolts. Like I say, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey hasn't changed. Just because the mechanic at the dealer says, oh, you can't do that because it's so advanced, doesn't mean you can't do your own brakes nowadays. Everything's still the same as it always has been. Well, anyways, guys, this was my 10 automotive misconceptions that I hear all the time. If you guys have any more misconceptions or myths in the automotive industry, leave them down in the comments and we'll revisit this list. I think I could do this list a lot better, but I just wanted to get what I've heard out there over the years and see what you guys have to think about that. So anyways, guys, leave questions down in the comments. Much appreciated. Thumbs up, much appreciated. And until next time, keep it out of the cabbage.